What's up, people? Welcome to another episode. Now in this one we are going to discuss the famous pancake tortoise and what we've done to house them here at Garden State Tortoise. Now why are they called pancake tortoises? Well, just take a quick look at them. They are flat, unlike the more classically domed species such as the Hermann's tortoise or what we're used to seeing. The pancake tortoise is a little bit more like the soft-shell turtles that we're used to seeing, where they really are just flat. Now pancake tortoises are actually also a little bit pliable. Now I'm not going to hurt this animal, but if you look closely you can see there's a little bit of give there, okay? And now what these tortoises can do is jam themselves into rock crevices, and what they can also do is inflate their bodies so that when you or a predator in the wild were to try to pull them out of those crevices, it can be nearly impossible to actually get them out. In fact, even with our captives that are used to being around people, it can be really difficult to try to pull them out of there if you're trying to do a health check or something. So to give you a little background on our pancake tortoise group, they came into the country. They were originally with a company, and then that company gave them over to a well-respected veterinarian. The veterinarian treated them, got them in good shape, and then gave them to an organization. And that organization ended up placing them with us. So it was basically one big rescue, and now they're here with us, set up comfortably and happily. I've left everybody's name out of it just because I don't know if they want to be mentioned. So, you know, I'll find out from them later on if they would like to be mentioned, and then, you know, I can go over details. But that's the basic gist, is that this wonderful, beautiful group, which is actually a very large breeding group, is now happily set up here and in excellent health and shape. And I'm going to show you guys what I did to build an African-esque outdoor habitat for them here at Garden State Tortoise. So as peculiar as they are, the pancake tortoise is no stranger to the reptile community, both in preservation and conservation, as they are a true favorite. These guys do well in captivity, but as I've said in many of my videos, always make sure you get your hands on captive bred, because when I say these guys come over in droves with importations, that's not even the word to describe it. They, over the years, have just come in the tens of thousands and probably even more than that. Sadly, they are now critically endangered in Africa, where they are found in Tanzania and Kenya. They are a very, very interesting species, and they're actually very communal. They occur in large groups in what they call in South African a kopje, which is spelled K-O-P-J-E, and it is South African for a rocky outcrop, basically a mound or a hill in an otherwise flat area. Really interesting habitat. You'll see photos of lions, prides of lions basking on them and hanging out on them. Well, you know, the pancake tortoises in certain areas are jammed inside the little crevices of these kopjes, and that's what we've done here at Garden State Tortoise. And what I see a lot of keepers do is to try to replicate some kind of rocky outcrop for them, and it's a lot of fun. And you know me now by watching my videos and watching me on social media. I love naturalistic enclosures, so I just went at it with creating their enclosure. I've had pancake tortoises on and off throughout my life, but as I described in the beginning of this video, this is a very special large rescue group that we received recently, and I really went the distance in creating a very naturalistic enclosure for them. And we're going to go over some of the details, but as you can see in just some of these clips, the tortoises are having a great time just exploring and getting exercise, climbing. They are extremely good climbers, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and they just seek refuge under these rocks, and they jam themselves in there, and you could just see multiple animals hanging out together. They're a perfect socialization animal. I'm sure that there can be certain territorial issues and aggression with males and maybe even gravid females, which is no surprise with any turtle or tortoise species, but pancake tortoises are just that one tortoise, at least in my opinion, that really occurs in a big group and knows how to do it well. So as I've stated in a lot of my videos and even some of the articles I've written, our location here in South Coastal New Jersey is actually really tortoise friendly. The well-drained ground, the sandy substrate, the bright sunlight, and the vegetation really makes it doable here, which is wonderful, especially for species such as pancake tortoises. Again, a lot of people associate us with Mediterranean tortoise species, which in most scenarios are actually very highly adaptable. But even other, you know, testudo species, for example, like the Egyptian tortoise, do well outside here during the warmer months. So the pancakes and other species like them can stay outside or can go outside, usually in April, and come in sometimes as late as the first week of November here. When we have a normal year. This year was not like that, and everybody had to go out late. The nesting season started late. It was kind of a mess, but we're well prepared for that kind of thing. And making this enclosure is just so much fun. Basically what I did was I created a raised garden or a raised bed, and this was to further make sure that they're not going to flood at all. You know, these tortoises, although they appreciate rain, just like any animal for the most part, they do need to be in somewhat of an arid environment where they can seek out humidity in the crevices of the rocks, which is where they'll find that precious microclimate. The tortoises are also going to be able to find humidity and a microclimate in and around appropriate plant life that you put in the enclosure. And I chose several different species of plant like lavenders and also some fountain grasses. But sedums go a long way because the tortoises can eat them and they help create that arid looking environment. A couple different types that you can get at garden centers. And I also use zebra grasses and also spirea, which you'll see in a lot of my different tortoise enclosures. And this stuff is also edible for them. And clearly it's beautiful. So for substrate in the enclosure, this right here, this is our natural ground. So you can see how sandy it is with some fine pieces of gravel and also some larger pieces. Like I said, very tortoise friendly. This stuff is excellent. And you know, it almost seems like I'm cheating, but it's abundant here. It's right in my yard. And what I did was I used this, and I also had a quarry come and deliver some fill sand with also some different grades of gravel in it. And I built the enclosure up. Like I said, I wanted them to really be out of flooding and raise them a little bit. They're not going to hibernate out here because they don't hibernate or brumate. And it also helps, you know, with the females for nesting, because pancakes actually dig pretty considerably deep nests for their size. You know, some tortoises are pretty shallow, but I've actually had to really go down in there to find the eggs from these things, and I don't want them digging down into the lawn where there could be too much moisture. So building them up and using this wonderful natural substrate with a little bit of added fill sand and gravel just helped to make that arid African-like setting. The walls of the enclosure are 18 inches high total, and they're made out of 10-inch planks and 6-inch planks, and then a 6-inch lip that's installed along the top, which is 2 inches thick, to help prevent escapes. You know, pancake tortoises are incredible climbers, and you can see that the lip is lays on top of the landscape timbers, which are used as posts that join each plank as you go around. This is all pressure treated wood, poses no harm to the animals, and down here in southern coastal New Jersey, we don't really have to deal with any rot. I've been using pressure treated wood for my tortoise enclosures since I can remember, since I was a kid, and I have never had anything rot out. That may be different for those of you in the southeast. Just a quick note on predation. You know, pancake tortoises are full grown at between 6 and 8 inches typically, but this is definitely not a hard kill or take for something like a raccoon. So as I've said in my other videos, something you got to take very seriously. We do a combination of methods here between have-a-heart traps, sonic devices, night guard, which are blinking nighttime lights, 3 different camera systems, dogs, you name it, and a high-powered electric fences, which I know you can't see that right now in the video because this is a brand new enclosure, but that's going to be getting installed in the next 48 hours probably. But you know, these guys don't have very thick or hard shells like other turtle species, and other turtle species are already vulnerable to predation like raccoons, so a pancake tortoise is just an easy snack for them. So take it seriously. You can make lids for your pens. We opt to not do that here because I want the natural tall plant growth. Keep in mind, I'm with our animals 24/7. If you can't be with them, you might want to, if you can't be with them that much, you might want to put a lid on the enclosure. But whatever you got to do to protect them, do it, and then you can get them outside in certain areas. And obviously there are certain areas that you can't do them outside, but where you can, if you live in an area like this, they'll appreciate it. It's highly beneficial. The funnest part of this project for me was creating this kopje or rocky outcrop that they occur in Africa. And I started using stone, flagstone, slate, Pennsylvania fieldstone that I had left over from existing enclosures that I built, and just started putting together these awesome areas for them in between the already growing plant life. Then I just went over to a local nursery that sells rock by the pallet or individually, and started picking out some other pieces to use that the pancake tortoises would appreciate. So right now I'm over at a local nursery that sells rock and stone, and I'm gonna pick out some really good pieces to continue on with my rocky outcrop that I'm creating for these pancake tortoises. And these are areas that the tortoises are gonna seek refuge and be able to jam themselves in and stay hidden and feel safe. So you know, they got a big variety of different types of rock here, and gonna pick out some good pieces. So I picked out some really good pieces. all different shapes and sizes so that I can create areas that are easy to climb, and obviously these really long, heavy, thin pieces to create shelving. And I'm going to unload it and start joining it up with what I've already done for them. All this really is just creating shelving out of these different types of rocks. And just Google some images of these kopjes out in Africa or any rocky outcrop and you'll get some ideas. You can use the thicker, larger stone as the support areas or support beams, if you will, or pilings. And then you just use the long, skinny pieces to make these shelves. And the smaller pieces are basically decor to show rock that has either crumbled over time or has been broken and it's settled in certain areas. It's all about just making it look naturalistic. You know, you're not creating an actual shelf to keep things on that's supposed to look nice in your home. This is for the tortoises to have refuge and to be able to behave in natural manners. I mean, just look at how calm they are underneath these rocky areas and in these crevices. This is where they feel comfortable, where they feel secure. You just want to make sure that they're sturdy and that they can't easily tip over and crush one of them by them moving it or something else. And be careful where you step when you're walking around the enclosure. When they deliver stone, they usually just drop the pallets off the back of the truck, which causes the stone to break into a lot of little pieces. Take those little pieces, throw it in the enclosure, and wherever it lands, it lands. It gives it even more naturalistic appeal and a very unintentional look, which is important when going for a natural environment. So I guess no tortoise enclosure here outside a Garden State Tortoise would be complete without a mini greenhouse or cold frame. And if you look at all my pictures and videos, you'll see that I offer this to pretty much all our tortoises. Pancakes are no exception, and they have an 8 by 2 foot cedar frame, cold frame. And I set up some rocky outcrops inside them as well. And this gives the tortoises a chance to thermoregulate. So right now I have it vented, which means I have the polycarbonate panels propped up, but I'm opening them here so you can see what it looks like inside. And the reason right now they're propped up is to allow for ventilation because it is so hot out right now. On days that aren't so hot, I can close the polycarbonate panels and they can get even hotter. Sometimes they bask on top of the rocks in here, while other times they hang out inside the crevices. And these two right here are starting to respond to raindrops. And I'm sure you've been wondering what happens to such an arid species when it rains. Well, all animals need water. And right here is proof of how they respond to it. We got a shower right now, and the pancakes are coming out and searching for areas to drink where the water will pool on the different areas of the rocks and the substrate and even the plants. And this is a natural response to a natural element, which is great. It rains in Africa, and it rains in New Jersey, and it rains in California, and pretty much everywhere. Droughts are okay for a species like this, but they're obviously going to need rain, and having a well-drained substrate that they're raised up on provides them with what they need so that they never are subjected to some kind of skin or shell infection with rotting from getting too moist. And you can see that these guys and girls are coming on out as the rain is subsiding now, and they're drinking wherever they can because that's what they need. The pancake tortoise is amazing in so many different ways. Its general appearance and morphology just goes completely against what we're used to seeing when it comes to any turtle or tortoise. The fact that they're flat and can expand and contract to evade predation so that they can completely slam themselves together inside these tiny rock crevices is just incredible. And sometimes they're not always horizontal. They'll actually go vertical in the wild where they're facing downward or upward and just jammed in there. They love these rock crevices. It's been incredible trying to make something like this for them. I can't wait to do it indoors for them too. And, be creative. You got to think of the animal and think of what it's going to be going through from a day-to-day basis, especially you as their caretaker. Be responsible. Don't be afraid to be creative. Don't be afraid to be experimental. Just make sure you're being safe in anything that you do so that the animals don't get harmed. Like I said, when you make these rock crevices or kopjes, you really need to know that the animals are going to be safe and that something is not going to loosen up and crush them. And it's not hard to do that. If you've ever done any kind of brick work or anything, it's pretty straightforward in how to put things together. But an enclosure like this is wonderful because it allows these tortoises to behave in all kinds of natural ways. They can breed in here, they can coexist in a large colony as they would in the wild. The females can dig their nests to a depth that they need to in the appropriate substrate. And the animals have plenty of vegetation and plenty of hiding places. And of course, we do feed them, in addition to that, a completely natural diet, with the exception of adding some Missouri Tortoise Diet 5M21 about once a week. So, taking a look at this enclosure, I'm really happy with the way it came out. I hope the rest of you agree. And it's been a nice journey. I can't wait for the next project. And just have a look around at these beautiful images of an enclosure that I'm very proud of and that I think really came together nicely for the Pancake Tortoise. So there you have it. Basically a step-by-step guide of how I put together our outdoor Pancake Tortoise enclosure. I hope you guys gain a little something from this, maybe some tips, maybe some cool ideas that you wouldn't have thought of otherwise, if not for Pancake Tortoises, but for other tortoise species. You know, there's some main staples that go into this: the right substrate, rock, appropriate plant life, predator protections, placement of the pen in the yard. And I'm hoping that if I have a chance in the fall, if things aren't too busy, that I can put together a video about their indoor enclosure that they're going to spend the winter in. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, the support has just been incredible, and that's why I just want to keep trying to do these YouTube videos for you guys. So as always, please like, subscribe, and share. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.